Do you pride yourself on the knowledge you accumulate, on the information you devour daily? And if I told you that this incessant search for what to think may be exactly what is preventing you from really thinking in a free, original, powerful way? The mind that only repeats is not free. It is just an echo. Before we unravel this hidden power, a simple gesture, like this video and subscribe. What we will share here may be the key to unlocking your own mind, and you will want to revisit this conversation. There was a time, not so distant, when the voice of a man echoed through American radios, not selling products, but ideas that shaped destinies. Earl Nightingale, a pioneer of self-help and personal development, a man who went from poverty to global influence through the power of his own thinking, realized something fundamental about human nature amidst the noise of the post-war era. He saw millions blindly pursuing success, repeating formulas, absorbing other people's opinions as absolute truths, living lives that were not authentically their own. Nightingale sensed that the greatest tragedy was not the lack of information or opportunity, but the atrophy of the ability to think for oneself. He stated with a cutting clarity that we become what we think about most of the time, but warned, who is really in control of these thoughts? Imagine the scene. Post-world. War to America, a country rebuilding itself, seeking a new north. Amidst this bubbling of hope and uncertainty, Nightingale's voice emerges, not as a distant guru, but as a fellow traveler, someone who understood the silent anguish of a generation. He spoke to the worker on the assembly line, to the housewife, dreaming of more, to the young person lost amidst the empty promises of consumption. Nightingale understood the psychology of that moment, the deep desire for meaning, for purpose, suffocated by the mechanical repetition of daily life. He knew, as Viktor Frankl would masterfully articulate, that the search for meaning is the most powerful driving force of the human being. But how to find meaning if the very ability to reflect, to question, to create one's own meaning was atrophied by the weight of conformity, by the avalanche of ready-made opinions, by the fear of standing out from the herd? Nightingale's vision was prophetic. He realized that true freedom, true prosperity, did not reside in the accumulation of material goods or information, but in the conquest of mental autonomy, in the courage to think for oneself in a world that insistently tells us what to think. He saw independent thinking not as an intellectual luxury, but as a vital necessity, like the very air we breathe to nourish the soul and give direction to existence. His message was a call to radical responsibility. We are the authors of our thoughts, and therefore the architects of our destiny. We live today in an even greater cacophony. The era of unlimited information is, paradoxically, the era of limited thinking. We are flooded by headlines, packaged opinions, algorithmic truths that reach us ready-made, chewed, designed to generate clicks and reactions, not reflection. We are taught what to think about politics, success, happiness, about ourselves. Ready-made answers are comfortable, offer the illusion of security in a complex world, spare us the arduous effort of doubt, of genuine investigation, of building our own reasoning. But this comfort, this apparent ease, has an invisible and devastating price. Our intellectual autonomy, our uniqueness, the very essence of our inner freedom. We exchange the vastness of independent thinking for the claustrophobic security of a walled garden of pre-approved ideas, ideas whose origin or validity we often do not even question. Imagine your mind as a garden, a vast, fertile garden, full of unexplored potentialities. Independent thinking is like the sun that nourishes this garden, the water that irrigates it, the wind that spreads the seeds of creativity and innovation. But what happens when you build walls around this garden, high, impenetrable walls, made of prefabricated ideas, of other people's opinions, of dogmatic certainties. The sun is blocked, the water stagnates, the wind does not enter, the garden becomes claustrophobic, stifling, sterile. The original plants, the genuine ideas, wither and disappear, suffocated by the shadow of invasive plants, superficial information, constant distractions. The digital age, with its promise of connection and knowledge, often transforms itself into this walled garden. Social networks, recommendation algorithms, incessant notifications, everything conspires to keep us within the walls, consuming the same, thinking the same, repeating the same. We are fed by a constant flow of homogeneous information designed to confirm our pre-existing beliefs, to keep us comfortable within our cognitive bubble. It is the confirmation trap, a powerful psychological bias that leads us to seek and value only the information that validates what we already think, ignoring or discarding what challenges us. And so, little by little, our ability to think critically, to question the status quo, to imagine alternatives atrophies, like a muscle that is not exercised. We lose the ability to navigate complexity, to discern the truth in the midst of noise, to form our own and genuine opinions. Do you feel this? That subtle discomfort when confronted with a radically different perspective? That almost automatic rush to label, to box, to discard what challenges your most ingrained beliefs, instead of pausing, breathing, and investigating? This is the voice of the conditioned mind, trained for conformity, fearful of the effort that real thinking requires, addicted to the easy dopamine of agreement and external validation. It is the mind that consumes what to think, but has forgotten how to think. It is the mind that has become a passive receptacle instead of an active engine of creation and discernment. Imagine yourself in a dark cave. You have spent your whole life there, accustomed to the shadows, the echoes, the dim light. The voices that come from outside, weak and distorted, seem threatening, strange, disturbing. The sunlight, which you have never seen, is feared as something painful, aggressive, dangerous. This cave is your intellectual comfort zone, the set of beliefs and opinions that you have accumulated throughout life, often without questioning their origin or validity. The conditioned mind is like a prisoner in this cave, chained to the walls of ignorance, fed by crumbs of pre-digested information, frightened by the possibility of leaving the darkness and facing the vastness of the outside world. That discomfort that you feel when confronted with a new, challenging idea is the voice of the cave, the fear of change, the resistance to the expansion of consciousness. It is the brain, addicted to familiar patterns, to repetitive synapses, fighting against the need to create new connections, to adapt to the unknown. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure and reward, comes into play to reinforce this pattern. Agreement, validation, the like on social networks, all of this releases dopamine, fueling the addiction to confirmation, to external approval, to the illusory security of the cave. But true freedom, true satisfaction, are not in the comfortable darkness of the cave, but in the arduous and rewarding journey towards the light, in the courageous exploration of the unknown, in the active construction of one's own understanding. But here lies the turning point, the transformative insight that Nightingale and other wise men bequeath to us. The true personal revolution, the true superpower in this noisy world, is not in accumulating more fragmented data, but in forging the mental tools to navigate, analyze, and synthesize this data. Learning how to think is like receiving the master key to your own consciousness. It is developing the musculature of the mind, the ability to question premises, including your own, to connect seemingly disparate ideas, to analyze the logic, or lack thereof, in other people's arguments, to discern the essential signal amidst the deafening noise, to sustain the tension of ambiguity without rushing to easy answers. It is cultivating a healthy skepticism, not to become a paralyzed cynic, but to become a free and conscious agent of one's own life. This is the silent superpower, the ability to direct one's own mind, to deliberately choose where to focus your attention and how to interpret reality. Imagine that you are navigating in a rough sea in the middle of a storm. Information is like the waves, relentless, chaotic, threatening. If you do not have a rudder, a compass, a map, you will be thrown wherever the waves want, adrift, without direction, without control. But if you master the art of navigation, if you learn to read the stars, to interpret the signs of the weather, to use the right tools, you can not only survive the storm, but also chart your own course, reach your destination, conquer new horizons. Learning how to think is developing these mental navigation tools. It is sharpening the rudder of your attention to direct it to where you really want to go, instead of being dragged by distractions and other people's agendas. It is calibrating the compass of your logical reasoning to discern the true north amidst confusion and misinformation. It is charting the map of your own value system to guide your decisions and actions with integrity and authenticity. It is strengthening the muscles of your mind through the constant exercise of doubt, reflection, critical analysis. It is learning the art of asking powerful questions, those that open doors to new perspectives, that challenge established certainties, that lead us to deeper levels of understanding. The invitation, then, is not to abandon knowledge, but to approach it with a new intention. Invest deliberate time not only in consuming content, but in actively processing it. Question what you read, hear, watch. Ask why. Ask according to whom. Ask what are the alternatives. Challenge your own certainties with the same intensity with which you would challenge those of others. Reserve moments of intentional silence, not to escape into distractions, but to allow your mind to dialogue with itself, so that your own ideas, intuitions, and syntheses can emerge from the background. The fundamental choice is this: do you want to be a mere passive repository of other people's information, an echo in the crowd, or do you prefer to be the active architect of your own understanding, the master of your mental landscape? Think about the difference between eating passively and cooking actively. Eating passively is simply swallowing what they serve you, without questioning the ingredients, the preparation, the flavor. Cooking actively is choosing the ingredients carefully, experimenting with combinations, refining the process, creating something unique and nutritious. The same applies to knowledge. Passively consuming information is like eating mental fast food, quick, easy, but empty and harmful in the long run. Actively processing knowledge, questioning, analyzing, reflecting, is like cooking a nutritious meal for the mind. It requires effort, time, and dedication, but the result is solid food that strengthens and nourishes you from within. Experience the power of the pause. In the midst of the whirlwind of information, notifications, external demands, set aside a few minutes for silence. Turn off your cell phone, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Observe your thoughts without judgment, without criticism, as if they were passing clouds in the sky of your consciousness. Allow silence to speak, intuition to manifest, answers to emerge from within you. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the space where creativity blossoms, where clarity settles in, where wisdom reveals itself. By making this choice, by investing time and energy in learning how to think, something profound begins to change. The anxiety generated by information overload decreases because you develop more effective internal filters. Creativity blossoms as you begin to make unique connections, to see patterns where others only see chaos. Your sense of purpose becomes clearer, not as something imposed from the outside, but as something that springs authentically from within, built on the solid foundation of your own reasoning and values. You become less susceptible to manipulation, more resilient to the tides of public opinion, more firmly anchored in your own inner truth, more able to make decisions aligned with who you really are and with what really matters to you. You stop being a passenger in the current and take the helm of your own boat. Imagine the transformation. Before, you were like a dry leaf carried by the wind of other people's opinions, of passing trends, of social pressures. Now, you become like a strong tree, rooted in the soil of your own conviction, resistant to the storms of life, capable of bearing unique and valuable fruits. Before, you felt lost, confused, anxious, overwhelmed by the excess of information. Now you feel in control, confident, serene, with clarity of direction and purpose. Before, you were a mere spectator of your own life, passively reacting to external events. Now you become the protagonist of your story, the author of your destiny, the creator of your reality. You become, in essence, more human, more authentic, more free. Imagine, for a liberating instant, what you could create, decide, feel, be, if your mind were truly your most powerful ally, a sharp and precise tool at your service, and not just a confused echo of external voices. What would you do if you unleashed the unexplored potential of your mind? What problems would you solve? What dreams would you realize? What impact would you have on the world? The answer is within you, waiting to be discovered, cultivated, expressed. The key to unlocking this potential is simple but profound. Learn to think for yourself. If this reflection has ignited a spark in you, if you feel the call to reclaim the power of your own thinking, share this video with someone who can also benefit from this journey towards intellectual freedom. And more importantly, leave a comment below. What will be the first small step you will take still today to invest more time in how you think and not just in what? Your journey begins now, and it has the power to inspire us all. Now that you have come this far, pause for a moment and ask yourself, am I really living the life I want to live? Or am I just repeating patterns, following the flow, echoing other people's voices? And remember, if this video made sense to you, leave your like, share with your friends and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next insights that can transform your way of seeing the world and living your life.